Alright guys, so this is our setup here. So this is our ridge, that's our eaves where the gutters would be. Our rake is on this side. So I was talking about a hip. So this roof here has a hip. There's a top and then it comes out this way and it comes out the opposite way. Hopefully you can see that. Their roof needs to be replaced as well. Anyway, so for this roof here, this is a roof over. We see all the nails, which means there's another layer of shingles that have been torn off. So my suggestion for tearing off the old roof, start from the top. So I got rid of the ridge cap here, and start from the top, and then as you lift up, everything should just pull up really easily. These nails I think are only like an inch, but pull and then you can tear the entire thing off. Maybe what I'll do is I'll stop midway through. One thing to keep in mind, you see how the debris here is all loose? This is now like sand that you can go sliding off the roof really easily. This here will be a lot safer to walk on, so be careful, and I highly recommend don't do this when it's wet outside. All right, half the roof has been torn off. So looking at our decking, our plywood, I mean, it's discolored, but there are no soft spots, so it's still in good shape. Take note how everything here is staggered. So we got a seam here, and then a seam there. That is how you want to sheet. You want to do in a brick type of pattern to lock everything in together. So the few places that were wavy, like you see how the end has been discolored, anything that was wavy, I took my 1.5-inch screws and I screwed it down. So with the one side done, I'm gonna go and then hop on to this side here. I'm in at 3 hours right now solo. That shows you how fast you can tear old crappy shingles off that are in bad shape. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and tear off the other side, and that'll be it for today, because when it comes to underlay and drip edge, it just doesn't make any practical sense for you to do this on your own. All right, I've torn off the old shingles. This stuff is all loose. It just needs to be pushed off the edge. There's actually a fence down there. I'm gonna walk along and grab everything and bring it down to the ground. So this is your chance to take your blower, blow off any debris. Now, with the old shingles off, this is what you're looking for. Stuff like this, where nails are not in all the way. So there is a truss here, because you can see the nails on either side. So if that one is probably loose, if it's already been pulled up. So I would suggest using screws to screw down any loose decking, like this one over here. That one down there, that was loose and popping up. So I went ahead and I screwed that all down. Otherwise, to finish for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all these shingles off. One thing, you notice the moss here. I've talked about this in other roofing videos. Because of this tree here, the east is that way, so the sun comes across. So this side had no moss, but this side has moss. If you have a tree or your portion of the roof is in the shade, you're gonna get moss buildup. That moss is going to retain water and it's going to deteriorate your shingles faster. So make sure, like in this case here, I'll probably trim this back a little bit more, as long as it's fine with the homeowner, but make sure that you're cleaning your moss off on a regular basis to prolong the life of your roof. So we have our first row of underlay. You see the lines. I think a 2-inch overlap should be fine. If you want to do more, you can. I've already stapled this down. There's no method to the madness for stapling. It's only underlay. So I just did rows of 3 every whatever 18 inches, something like that. The back down there needs to be cut down. With the first row of underlay down, the apron can go on. All right, I shingled the other half, or half the other half. Since this side is easier to show on, I'm going to show you guys this side. So first of all, underlay is already down, because I had guys here yesterday. I went ahead and put the drip edge and apron on. So apron will go first. Whether your paper goes above or below, I don't think it really matters, but apron went on. Every foot or so, it's been nailed down the line. Now, this is a 20-foot span. So instead of having full and then this short piece at the end, I decided to put it in the middle because it's going to be less visible. So when I did this, I cut a notch into this, so instead of it kicking out, it'll look better. Remember, starter's going to go over this and then shingles as well, so you're not going to see this cut. And then you can see the overlap is maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches, somewhere in that range. So looking at our drip edge, so our drip edge comes over, it's to the very end. Oh, there's that should have been cut back, but that's fine. So our drip edge goes all the way up our rake end here. Underlay went over. So for the underlay, these lines are about 2 inches. So the overlap at this one here was 2 inches down. And then what I did was the higher one up there, I just went up to the top and then I allowed it to overlap whatever it was, just so I didn't have to cut all the way across. So the next step for this will be now is going to be our starter shingle. So for the starter, because I'm going to start on this side here, it doesn't matter if you want to start on the right, you can, but for the first starter, I'm going to cut it in half. The shingle is, I think, 41 inches. So if you cut your first one in half, your keyway for your starter will be here, and then your first shingle will be over here, and then every 8 1/4 it's going to be stepping back, which I will show you once I get this all set up. Okay, this is the rental. Nail gun, 3H hose, and then a compressor. Guys, this is a remainder of the tool list. Okay, what I did is I snapped the line horizontally all the way down, and then I snapped the line vertically up the rake all the way up. So this is 7.5. My starter is 7 3/4, so that's going to give a 1/4 inch overlap. So I measured from here, I measured at the very end over there, I snapped the line so it's straight. Remember, just because this is supposed to technically be square, it might not be square. It might like be wavy in the middle, so don't go off the middle. What I'm going to do is my first starter is a half starter because my first full shingle will be over here. So the keyway will be here, and that's going to offset everything all the way down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my first starter down. I'll go up the rake. I'll just do that on my own. Once again, it'll be 7.5 from the line, and that'll give me a 1/4 inch overlap. I'll go all the way up. I'll get that done, and when we have the starter all along the bottom here and then all the way up our rake, that's when we'll come back and start looking at our stair step. Okay, so I got the starter all the way down. Now for the side here, I like to leave a little space so this tar will hit the bottom layer of shingles. I snapped my line. I've given this a 1/4 inch overhang on this side here. So now put a couple nails in, go up the rest of the way, just follow the line. Remember, your rake may not be straight, but by snapping a line from down here and then snapping a line from up there and following it, you're going to have straight starters. And then for your starter, it'll be the same thing. You're not going over, you're just going to butt up against your starter that's above it, just like here. So if we were going vertically this way, one, and then the next one goes over. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my starter done here, and then we'll come back when I have my stair step ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to start my stair step on this side here. So this is a full shingle. I'm going to go a 1/4 inch below this. I'm going to put my first, was it 4 or 5 courses? But I'll do the first course, and then we'll do the next one. We'll watch nail placement, do the next one, and then we'll do all 5. Once that's all done, I can fly away because it's just going to be full shingles the whole way down. Okay, so this is our first shingle. Here I have my jig in front of me. So I've got 1 inch off the end, 2, Now, I said in the first part that you always want a nail 1 inch off the end. So there's one caveat, and this is why I said that you need to watch all these parts together to understand. This is a rake edge. If you put a nail in here, you'll blast through the drip edge on the end. So this one here, you're going to pull in. And for just this very first row, you're not going to have anything 1 inch off the end. The rest of them are going to be pulled in a little bit, and then you'll be fine. Otherwise, you'll blow through your edge metal and it won't look good. So this is our first course. I'm going to go ahead, put on the next one, and then we'll see the nails where they line up in relation to the keyway. All right, so I have my 1 inch off the end. So this is 8 1/4 shorter. The next one will be 8 1/4 shorter, so on and so forth. So I have my nail here. I have two here. Again, you're going to pull this one off the end. So looking underneath, these are where our nails are. So our keyway is here. So I said as it rains and water comes down, it's going to come down and it's going to come across a little bit. Steeper the pitch, the less it's going to do it. But if you have a nail right here, you're going to have a leak. But our nails are way over here. So I'm going to put on the next course. We'll do this again. And then we're going to once again look at where our nails line up, and our next course should line up somewhere around here. Alright, so this is our next course. Our nails are here, our keyway is here, so we're fine. The next one will be here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and do the next two because you get the idea. And then once again, make sure that you're not shooting your rake edge, which is this, too close, because you'll just blow through the metal. Okay, so this is our setup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 courses. This is all ready to go. So now it's going to be full shingles all the way down. So I'm going to nail these 5 courses down, and when we get to the other end, we'll look at how to address the very end, because it's going to be very common where the end will be here and then you have a small space here, and it could even be smaller like this where you're not going to put in a 2-inch shingle, but we'll address that once we get over there. Okay, so we're here at the end. Now this remarkably actually worked out because I've got 8 1/4 and here we are right at 8 1/4. But let's just say this didn't work out quite the way you wanted. What I would personally do is for each course, the last nail here, I would leave it out. Because if you have to cut it back or move it somewhere, then you can always just put a nail in somewhere else. One other thing that I didn't mention, when you nail on the common bond here, and then the next one, you're also nailing higher up into the head lap. So each row of shingles actually has 2 nails into this. But for this here, this will just go in here. The next one will go on top and then continue. So like I said, if this is actually going to be a little bit short, if you leave this nail out, you can always shuffle your nailing pattern around at the very end to make sure that your nail doesn't land somehow in a keyway on a row above. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish shingling all the way to the top, and then when we're at the top, the box vent has to be figured out, and then the ridge cap has to be done as well. Okay, I'm going to start my hip in ridge. I haven't finished going all the way across, but I've got too many bundles of shingle and I'm the only one up here, so instead of moving the hip in ridge, I'm just going to start doing this. So this is the entire hip in ridge. Every sheet comes in 3 of these things, so you just cut them down the middle. So this is our exposure or the reveal. This is the underside. So for the very first one here, that will be at the very edge. So that tar will stick to here, and then I'm going to start coming down. Now it's very common for people to snap a line. I'm going to eye this out based on each side, and the only reason that I'm not snapping a line is because, like I said, I've got so much stuff up here. It's just too time consuming for me to do this on my own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the first hip and ridge into place, and then I'm going to show you this one here. And like I said, I'm going to start doing my hip and ridge as I go back the other way towards the other side of the roof. Okay, so I nailed the end down. I used the common bond to nail this one down. Now the other ones, this will go over. Now the other ones will be nailed down here. If you nail it up here, there's way too much flap with this that it can get picked up with the wind. Eventually it'll keep flapping and break off. So what I'm going to do is I'll put a nail down here and a nail down here. It'll actually, a nail on each side will hold this back and down. One thing to keep in mind, where is the prevailing wind coming in your area? Here it's out of the west, so it's coming out from that way. If the wind is coming from that way, you don't want to start from this end. You want to start from the other end and then have the very last piece. The reason is, it's better if the wind is hitting this instead of picking up off the end. But I'll go ahead and I'm going to nail this in. I'll show you the method I'm going to use. Alright, so I'm going to put 2 nails. This one should have been farther down, but I'm going to put 2 nails on either side. For the tar strip, make sure you're just going past it just a little bit. And then that'll be our hip and ridge. I need to fly here. I got about an hour and a half of daylight left, so I need to finish as much as I can here. Okay, so this is our box vent. The top has an arrow. Now, what I want is, I want the top half here to be along this common bond. That way the shingles will sit right on top. I'm basically as far as you can go up. I've decided to center this so it looks better, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut the shingles back and then take a sawzall and cut a hole, and that's when we'll come back, because it's too difficult to try to film this. Alright, so I cut the hole for the box vent. So our box vent is here. So there's a rib that goes all the way around. So put your nails out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bead of Geocel all the way around the top. And then I'm going to slide the box vent in. I'll probably come up under here. And then the shingles will come up on top here. Okay, so that's our Geocel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide it under this row of shingles and then this row here and get it up to the top. Alright, I put in a nail there. I have a nail in there. I'm going to use grommeted screws here and here. I'm not a fan of putting, like you see the hole here, putting anything over here. The reason is that water can come underneath. Like, this is pretty low, but I think 2 grommeted screws here will be fine. I need to get going here because I'm running out of daylight, so I'm going to continue on as long as I can. But we'll come back when this is all done and ready to go. Like I said, I still have to put my screws in here because I can't find them right now. Okay, so I put my grommeted screws in. If you want to use a little bit of Geocel as a point over here and a point over here underneath, you can. That's what I did. Try to avoid making a mess that you see here. It just looks better. So this is the end of the ridge. It's all the way to the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one piece like that. I'm going to nail that down. This piece will go onto here. This will get nailed down there and there. And then this bottom part will get cut off. And that's going to cap it off. 2 nails will go in on either side, and then it'll be Geocel down, so the nails are covered. No matter what you do, you're going to have these capped nails somewhere on your roof. There's no way around it. So I'll nail on the first part, will come back, and then every step of the way we'll keep coming back until this is all done. Okay, so this has been nailed down. I'm going to put this over. I'm going to cut this right here along this strip, and then our last piece will go over, and that'll be sealed into place. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 4 dabs of Geocel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a big glob of it. I don't think it's a good idea to put a line because the water can carry over. I think just a glob in each spot would be better. You see how this is here? where you have a break in it so water can travel. Okay, so we have our 4 spots of sealant, and then I want the middle here to be right where the tar strip is. And now I'll nail it down. Alright, so we have our 2 nails. So now what I'm gonna do is just put Geocel over the heads, and that'll be it for this. And it's over here, so both sides have been sealed, and as you can see there's no sealant sticking out, so go a little bit higher up with the sealant so you don't get anything showing on the very bottom, because it won't look as nice. Okay, so this is our finished product. This is a gable roof, so it's just essentially 2 rectangles. I put the box vent in because this had no venting before. This doesn't have soffits, so you're not going to have an intake exhaust ratio, but otherwise everything went well. I didn't run into any issues on this job, just nothing more than minor typical stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a third part. I'm going to go into detail for the box vent because I didn't have a chance to, and then also some of the nuances that I ran into for DIYers. You're probably going to run into this as well, so we'll talk about that, how to address the issues, mistakes, shiners, keyways in the wrong spot because you missed something, all that type of thing, to make sure that your install goes as smooth as possible.